get up, get up. Let's make love tonight. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Come feel it right. Oh, I can tell, darling, that it's sexual feeling. Get up, get up, get up, get up. Let's make love tonight. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Come feel it right. Get up, get up, get up.
all of us are going to benefit from. SIO, in a nutshell, is a professional Bye-bye.
Moderator is Mrs. Titilope Akerele, change management. Please stand up for us. Let's see your pretty face. She has a track record of change management. She has talent management. You know, she has done a lot of organizational change. Her track record is pretty impressive. And I should stop. Yes, thank you. Thank you. I like the fact that you're blushing. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Titi Akerele. Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. My name, once again, is Titope Akerele. Thank you for inviting me and giving me the privilege to moderate this amazing session. I am super excited to be here. I'm more excited about the other speakers that we're going to have today. These are my HR egbons. These are people that I learned a lot from. So just letting you know already now that the information you're going to get here would be mind-blowing. And I also thank SIAO for this topic. It is absolutely important. I'm happy we're having this conversation. Why? Because what is popular right now in the world of work is the future of work. Everyone is talking about the future of work, and a very key element there is also the role that HR would play, or how HR itself will transform in all of this. So indeed, in case you weren't already reimagining HR, please open your minds and be prepared to reimagine HR. So how the conversation today is going to go, we're going to have 3 sessions, and each of them is going to be taken by one of our speakers for today. We have 3 speakers in the house. The topics that we will be tackling is 1, reimagining HR. Then we will also be talking about navigating an emerging culture, what that's about. And finally, we will talk about keeping the human touch alive. I mean, we are in the world of work where technology is taking over, and some of our jobs, tech is taking over that. But one thing I know is that when it comes to human resources, we still need the human in the human resources. So while an AI can be able to help you automate a lot of your processes, we still need that physical touch. We need human beings to be able to control and manage and support our businesses so that they keep striving. So allow me to introduce all of the speakers to the stand or to my space. So I have Mr. Benga Totoi. I have Mrs. Jumoke Aleoke Malakai. And I have Mr. Yemi Fashion. So would you please come and join me? Thank you. While they find their way to the stage, I will use this opportunity to introduce our first speaker. He goes by the name Gbenga Totoyi. GT, as he is fondly called, and I would like to introduce you, please. No, I want to introduce you.
Trust me.
Okay. Well, we'll share his bio, so you'll get to know him later.
Can we please put our hands together for her? When you have senior professionals seated all over the room, we can as well just go by our first names. I believe that's okay, right? All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. So first confession. I'm one of those people that I tried in the past to call the name of your company as just one name. And that's going to be our first game of the day. So whoever is going to successfully and rightly pronounce the name of the company that has brought us all together today will get a gift. Now, are you sure? You don't come? Good to see you, sir. A lady, please. Can I choose? And now all the ladies are looking away from. Okay, so let's try. Go ahead. Fantastic. Let's put our hands together for him. If you were right or wrong, we don't know. Next, you, sir. Interested. You want to try? Well, go ahead. I finally found the best way to pronounce it without biting here. I know I've got 20, 25 minutes and I'll just jump right into it. Please, my slides. Okay. By the way, my name is Gbenga Totoyi and I know my name gets murdered a lot as well, but to make it easy, GT works for me. All right. For some reasons, I think Ruth had it out for me, so she made sure I was going to speak first. I don't know why, but it's okay. I'll work with it. And I'll confess, I'm also struggling with a number of things that have happened to the profession, particularly. And if you must be honest, we started dealing with some challenges before COVID. What COVID did to all of us was to just amplify the pace of the change that we were experiencing, or just made the challenges a global conversation, okay? And coming out of COVID, I mean, I know YF is gonna say it, and we should give him credit for that. We said future of HR so much, he had to write a book to say the now of HR, just to bring the conversation forward and force us to have deliberations that will help us. Thank you so much. Okay. So what I decided to do was to come here today with 5 questions on my mind. I've not come to teach, I've just come to lead a conversation. And hopefully at the Q&A session, we can deal with some of them. I have some answers, but quite honestly, I don't have answers to all the questions I've come with, okay? And the very first question I have in my mind is, and this is particularly for HR folks. Is there really a problem with merging the HR function with admin? I've been asked to come talk about reimagining HR. The more I interview young people coming into HR, the more I get that question. In fact, I have people coming to me to say, after 1 year of admin work in HR or 2 years, it's not strategic enough for me. I want to look for something else. And they're quick to say, let's leave. And I'm beginning to have a challenge with it. And I think it's giving the industry a problem because, sorry, now that, okay. Yeah, it's my, no, sorry. I'll move around a bit. I was trying to I was trying to create a basis for it. Why? We are going to have a number of people ask me that question. And for me, it's something I wanted to bring to the house, right? But don't let me jump. Work models is being challenged. We are having conversations around how we can lead with more empathy. Safety in the workplace is going beyond what we've had for so long in the engineering and oil and gas space. My personal experience coming into 2020, I assembled a number of books I was going to read, and I stumbled on one of the books I bought like 2017, titled The 2020 Workplace. I was reading in January, and I was really impressed. This book it took about 10 years for them to research, and they started research in 2010. So I asked myself, why would you write about year 2020 in 2010? And you took about 2 years to write the book. So if you back it all up, we'll have to go back as far as 2008. And you were predicting 2020. It will surprise you to know that, yes, they wrote 10 clear prophecies in quote around the year 2020, but they gave us 5 extra ones. Number 3 out of the extra 5 was a prediction about a major pandemic that would change the world of work. And I was reading that in January 2020, and I was like, okay, so come second week, and we were nearing, that conversation was already coming out and things like that. So I was particularly impressed with the research that went into that work. And I was like, okay, what are we gonna do? What's gonna happen? And here we are today. So conversations around safety. Now, the reason I referred to that book, forgive me, was that one of the many things I learned from that book was that we were going to have increased pressure on a reduced workforce. And that was going to have a lot of issues around our mental stability and health and things like that. So psychological safety in the workplace is becoming a conversation. Now, L&D cannot be what it used to be anymore. It just can't happen, because we all went through 2 years of learning online and learning in bits and pieces, and now we've come out of it in code, and the conversations around how exactly are we going to learn and how are we going to adapt what we're learning, and of course, how can we use innovation to change everything that we're doing. I'll ask us one question on innovation, for instance. If you look at Workplace Compensation Act, one of the many lines around it is there's some level of compensation for, now HR folks, teach me please. What does it say? What does that act say? That we're going to have some sense of compensation for injury in the line of work, right? Before COVID, that conversation only happens when you go in and out of work. But it's been 2 years that your house has become your workplace. So what happens when you have an injury at home while working? Again, like I said, I've just brought questions. I require us to pay attention. Are we following? Right? So let's go into some of the questions I've brought today to just ask us to think. I was just talking about this. And this is not just about what we do for employees. So this question is directed at HR professionals. Why do HR professionals neglect their own psychological well-being? Hello. We've had 2 years of dealing with others. We've had 2 years of taking care of organizations. If we really, really check it amongst ourselves, we need to take time out to look at our own well-being. It's been 2 years, or for some, 3 years of grueling work. Some have not even gone on leave. Some of the issues that have been brought to our attention, some of the things we've dealt with, requires that we are now taking a second look, not just at the employees or the business that we serve, but we are taking a second look at ourselves and checking if we are in the right state of mind to do the work that we are demanded to do, okay? We need to do that. So if we do all the things we do, deal with bullying in the workplace, deal with sexual harassment in the workplace, every workload, tight deadlines, and things like that, that we've dealt with for the organization, why are we finding it difficult as HR professionals to look inwards and take care of our own psychological state? Question 2, and I'm happy that not all of us are HR professionals, so there are business leaders here. I remember a time in this country, in this profession, you can't be the MD of certain companies in Nigeria without having led HR. So we had a generation of HR people who became MDs and general managers. There's a decline in the market, and it's getting more and more disturbing. If I asked us in this room to just take a census, we will probably not get to 10 of HR folks that we know became HR. I'm serious, and I can do it. In fact, let's do it. Please mention, just raise your hand and mention any top HR leader, HR director you know that has gone on to become the MD or the CEO of the company in the last 7 years. Please, let's make it an exercise. I will disregard everybody on the panel. Yes, please. Let's make it an exercise. Right. Let's just mention names that we know. Let's see if we'll get to 10.
I am an example.
Fantastic.
Right?
Thank
So
you.
I start with myself.
Okay.
I rose to become director,
Okay.
and I asked myself, what
else?
next after being a director in the HR function? So I started building myself for the next stage of my career.
Okay.
Fortunately, I was also opportune to have been involved in a project which I'm sure you're aware of.
Yeah.
That opened my eyes to the estate business.
Okay.
And then, of course, the opportunity came for me to apply for a particular job as CEO of one of a sister institution, which I did. And stemming from my experience in that project, I had the privilege of leading that institution as the CEO. And that's where I stopped as the CEO of that organization. So that's myself. Because I know that most HR professionals, they feel that once you have attained the peak of their career, that's the end.
Yeah.
But what next? Just like you have asked. I mean, I have asked that question a number of times.
Okay.
And I've prepared myself for it. So, and then of course we can look at examples such as, but maybe not 7 years.
I intentionally limited it to 7 years.
It at 7 years.
Yeah.
But there are quite a number, but I may not be able to remember now.
Okay.
But I know I'll put my pen on paper. And
fantastic. And let's continue the conversation. And I'm happy you are a successful example to look at. Thank you very much, sir. Anyone else? In the last 7 years, HR directors, chief human resource officers that became CEOs, MDs of the company they work in or another. Okay, I guess that supports the position. Okay, yes, sir. Mr. Wally Smith, good to have you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Victor Adebayo.
Okay, yeah, Victor Adebayo. He's currently a CEO. I know that, yeah, and I know him as well. He used to be HR director at Airtel, I believe. Okay. Anyone else? I guess the conversation it's pretty clear. There is a sharp decline of HR professionals that are going ahead to become MDs and CEOs. And this was a major conversation if you go back a decade or two. And that is becoming a conversation we should have more with ourselves. Is it for absence of the skill required? Is it the absence of the support from the business? Or it's just a matter of us not having the aspiration as HR folks? Or whilst in conversation with business leaders around HR issues, are we not speaking the language of the business enough to now be trusted with running the organization? Okay, let's go forward. Now, I intentionally put this list just to get us thinking. Job roles will change. Even within the HR function, we are now having many titles, and I know that's a conversation in itself, but if we look ahead in the next 10 years, some of these things will become the reality of our function. Data will be a conversation, and there'll be many titles around data, okay? As people build technology solutions, even in assessments, I make bold to say some of the assessment products we have out there that are now even driven by online applications and all of that. Beneath it, do we have algorithms or we have indices to truly test the African professional? Or they are mostly imported solutions that do not recognize the resilience or the tough environment that the average person works with in a place like Nigeria. For instance, I can tell us for free, and there's no bias here. If you run an entry-level computer-based test in this part of the country, your success rate or the pass rate will be somewhat higher than running in another part of the country. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. It's going to be different. Now, are you going to ask me as a recruiter to lower my pass rate just because I'm in another region of the country or not? And if I don't, do I have the right to say, because my pass rate, say in Lagos or the West, is 80%, my pass rate across the country should be 80%, when I know that the parameters across the country are different? I hope I'm still in a safe place. It's different. In fact, the average recruiter here will tell you, I don't even want a brief to say recruit X number of people from some parts of the country. It is becoming a big challenge recruiting for anybody up north. Once you leave Abuja, it's difficult. Are the businesses there not going to survive? Are they going to work only with machines? No. But how are we going to do the work that we have to do? Like I said, I've just come with questions. So we're going to have a lot of things around how do we know the bias that exist in the technology that we are now using? How exactly are we going to be doing counseling going forward, right? The whole conversation around diversity and inclusion, and we had a very interesting meeting on that just past Sunday, where I intentionally raised the question again. The conversation around diversity and inclusion and having more women in leadership, are we sure it's not just a conversation around mere representation as against participation driven by competence? If it is driven by competence, in fact, we ended up not solving that problem on Sunday, I remember, because it now looks more like we need to have a healthy combination of both competence and representation. But we have perhaps pushed too much the narration for just mere representation. Have board membership by 30% must be women. So we are now in a situation, women to fill certain positions are not necessarily, should just be looking for better leaders, not necessarily male or female. Am I safe? I am not safe. I can see hands going up already. Don't worry. Q&A session will deal with that. Okay. And many more things. Employee enablement coach. We will hire at a certain level and we still have to grow competence. And how do we get that done? And trust me, a number of us that are in the workplace can make do with the director of well-being. I am probably not as well as I should be. And don't call me lazy. Don't call me distracted. I'm dealing with a challenge and I can make do with help that I can get from the organization that I work in, okay? I know YF will deal more with this whole conversation. Don't worry, I'm intentionally looking for trouble. These are other questions that I came with. Like I said when we started, is there really a problem with merging the HR function with administration? And the reason why I raised it, apart from what I said earlier, is that, for instance, every one of us here came into the year. Before 2022, your budget on power and diesel, for instance, was 200, 250 tops. By February, March, we were knocking on 400. In fact, my organization, we budgeted double, 200, okay, we'll do 400 for the year. I hope we can all remember diesel prices hit 750, 800 at some point. And so if you would need budget to run the organization in HR, run training, and run all the things you do, and all the money you would need for that is going to another part of the business, you can then not tell me you are a proper HR business partner and not care about the cost outlook that your organization is dealing with. And I think at the end of the day, we are managers of resources, either human or not. And a background in admin, a solid foundation in administration prepares us. And sir, even when you were speaking, you referred to business leaders at the end of the day as what? Administrators. And so please, can we help younger folks coming into the space to be calmer and accept the demands of the entry level of the business? So they have the foundation required to do better down the line when they get into strategic things, as they all desire to be. My next question is, the pace of change and our ability to manage flexibility will become increasingly critical to our value contributions in human resource management. How can we become more agile and adaptive to the ever-changing demands? It's not even so much around flexibility in the workplace anymore. It's flexibility even where your talent works. There's a joke in town. A particular bank in Nigeria said, if they would have a head office in Canada and have ex-staff that left Nigeria for Canada in that country, work for them in that country, they will fill all the roles and the head office will be in Canada. Did I say that right? Let me say it again. All the roles in the head office, if they look at people that have exited and gone to Canada and they want to create head office Canada branch, they will fill all the roles with ex-staff. Does that not suggest that, well, I know it's happening already. We're already sharing staff. So you will not want to lose that employee completely, but if the other player is not a direct competitor, why not share? Do 2 days with me, take Wednesday off, and do 2 days somewhere else. It sounds strange, but to be honest, you're already sharing your tech talents. You're already sharing your tech talents. You are probably already sharing your sales agents. You just don't know. They're working for you while working for other people. And if you and I are going to struggle with increasing remuneration to match inflation rate, is it not wisdom? Okay. Like I said, I did not come with answers. My last passing shot would be the modern workplace demands increased personal awareness, growth, and flexibility. We must adapt a more proactive approach to employee experience, satisfaction, while maintaining a fair, objective position policy-wise. You will have employees ask for different things, sometimes outside of your policy. I'm dealing with one at the moment. And you will be fair, but you will also want to treat each employee the best way you can so you keep them, okay? I hope this has been helpful. I've just come to raise questions, and hopefully in the course of today, we can find some more answers. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gbenga, or GT as you're fondly called. I mean, Q&A session was supposed to be all the way at the end of this, but our guy here decided to start it off for us. If you do have questions for him, please hold on to it. We will have it during the Q&A session. But up next, we have Jumoke Aleoke Malachi taking us on navigating the emerging culture. So Mrs. Jumoke, Jam, as she's fondly called, is a seasoned human resource practitioner with wealth of experience spanning over a decade of interfacing with CEOs, HR leaders, and hiring managers. At this point, I might need to stop the introductions, and I think it's my fault because when someone was introducing me, I also stopped it. Maybe this is how HR, the future of HR is going, but here you have it, Jam. Thank you.
Thank you, Titi. So let's just do well to move on quickly. So different generations we have represented in the workplace, and it's a reality. But before I start off, imagine that in our dealing with ourselves in the workplace, a lot of questions will come up. Some set of people will say, why can't we do it the way we've always done it? It's not broken. Why are we trying to fix it? Another set of people will say, this thing is not working. Why are we not changing it? I know that if there's any generation we all know, what generation is it? Hmm? Very, very quick to mention. And it's because they're coming with fresh blood. They're challenging everything. And then for some of us that have been here longer, you're like, why would you challenge something that's always worked? Why are you questioning me? I'm your girl, don't try me. These are conversations we have in the workplace, but they are reality. To say, the new set of people are saying, why are we doing things the way you've always done it? There's a different way. And I will give them a lot of credits, because many things that they actually challenge, you see that you can actually adjust. You can do things differently. And that's where I'm going in my conversation. So yes, in the workplace today, we have a multi-generational workforce. And that's the norm. We have older people in our midst, and they have a right to be in the workplace. But we also have younger people, and they also have a right. So everybody has stakes at the table. The interesting thing, what becomes very critical, is how we are able to work together. The new generation arising in the workplace are driving significant changes in both how people work and the workforce itself. And there are 5 key generations that I will touch on. There's the silent generation, the baby boomers, the Generation X, the millennials, and the Gen Zs, the very popular Gen Zs. But how did they get so popular? How did they get so popular? And nobody even remembers any other generation. So when you mention your generation, you're like, who are those ones? Were they ever in the workplace? But the Gen Zs have come and they're shaking everywhere. So who are the silent generation? They're born between 1928 and 1945. Not quite familiar with technology. I'm not shaking any tables. So this is, I'm reading a script, so allow me. But we're getting somewhere with this conversation. So yes, they are, born between 1928 and 1945, not familiar with technology, personal interactions, they're very keen on that. Yes, they have solid managerial experience, and pension plans are a priority. So that's them. And then we have the baby boomers, and they're born between 1946 and 1964. Traditional recruiting process, that's what they're familiar with. Face-to-face interactions, very important to them. They don't like changing jobs. Mr. Smith mentioned that earlier. They stay longer in organizations. Some of us are, YF would say is a nomad, a digital nomad. Or there's something YF usually says. That please, well, some of us, I always say to people that I am a flight risk. I am. But that's as long as the culture of the organization is serving me. As long as there's, I'm looking for the next big thing. And I'm not sorry, but I'm not Gen Z, because you guys will be like, she's one of them. Not quite, but there's something there. So yes, they don't like changing jobs, and they prefer mentoring younger groups. And the baby boomers are essentials, and that's what my conversation today is really highlighting. Every generation brings something to the table. They bring something into the workplace. So everybody's voice should be heard. And then we have friendly. They want to lead. They value deeper purpose and philosophy at workplace. They want to be judged by the quality of work and not the hours of work. And like I said, we thought that we were the generation to beat. That's my generation. I thought that we're the generation to beat, but some people came and they humbled us. But I hope they're watching their back, because the people coming after them humbled them too. How about that? And then we had Generation Z, born between 19 and extremely comfortable with the latest tech. They do some things and you're like, what was that? What was that? Looking for stability. And they prefer flexible working hours. They want to work from anywhere. They don't want you micromanaging them. They expect that you trust them. So once you send a task to me, please don't be following up with me to say, Alpha, I will send it when it, don't stress me. That's them. And then of course, they prefer diverse workplaces. And GT alluded to agility. And I thought that that's a very important conversation to have. And I would say that for any organization that wants to, stand out in the now of work, the future is already here. Agility is a conversation to have. So who are the Gen Z? Because they're the ones I want to focus on. These are people who were born between 1996 to the early 2000s, and they grew up deeply connected to technology, practically from the moment they became self-aware. They make up 24% of the present workforce, 24%. How many of us have Gen Zs in our teams? So that's a reality we're dealing with. But how do you deal with them? They are the true digital natives. They do everything, anything. In our own time, you could play video games. There are a few things we could do with the phones and stuff. But right now, even my 5-year-old can go to YouTube by herself on my phone. I'm like, how did you? When I was your age, I was playing with Sandu. Yeah, you're already a Texas in the making. And they're entrepreneurial. Their work priorities are diverse. They are realists and self-branders. So personal branding has never been important to any generation like it is to this generation. And of course, they are poised to have tremendous impact on the workforce because increasingly, they're the ones you will hire. So when we look at all of these generations we've talked about and how everybody brings something different, to the workplace, how do we then, what are the negative impacts this can have on our workforce? So first is increased conflict. Yeah, like you have to be very careful. We're going to have conflicts. So because we have different generations represented in the workplace, we will have conflict. Second is potential turnover. People want to leave, I don't like how you're talking to me, or I don't like this department, I don't like this job anymore. I don't like that you want to see my face every day at work. I want to live in Nigeria and earn in foreign currency. That's what I want. So if you're not giving me that as an employer, I want out. And then of course, poor communication, because everybody has not an agenda, but everybody has a stake. Everybody's voice wants to be heard. So you have that. And then of course, the issues of use of technology. There's a generation that you cannot blame them. They didn't grow up using technology. But in the workforce or in the workplace, we make demands of them to say, you need to be able to do this, you need to be able to do that with technology. So that's an issue. And then of course, difference in leadership style. We're having a conversation earlier before I came up stage, and we're talking about how humanizing the workplace is the conversation we have these days. But before now, line managers could, be overtly toxic and get away with it. But increasingly, there's a battle, yes, to say, no, I know my rights. I know I deserve to work in a conducive and enabling work environment. And so leadership styles, will cause issues. And then of course, stereotyping. So the moment I see, I'm like, oh yeah, from that generation, all of you are spoiled. And there's somebody else who's saying, all these old people, they don't even know how to use TikTok, or they don't know how to use Instagram. So you will naturally stereotype. And these are the issues we face in the workplace. Some of the issues we have between line managers and their subordinates is really a clash of generations. And then if we've looked at that, like I said, there's something bringing all these generations together also gives us their advantages. And I'll look at some of them. So first, you have a stronger talent pipeline. Because if you have a mix of generations and you're not letting one generation rub off on the other, you're not having them mentor and have reverse mentoring happen, then that's on you as an organization. Because ideally, we should be having real value exchange. And then of course, learning and mentoring opportunities I talked about earlier. And then you have knowledge transfer and retention. So if you have older people, in the organization, you should be deliberate about harnessing that and making sure that there's real knowledge transfer between them and the younger people in the workforce. And then of course, the opportunity to build unique relationships. There are many older people that, even from their interactions with the younger ones in the workplace, they learn to even deal better with their kids. Yeah. Yes, from their interactions. I recall attending a HR session sometime in, I think, 2016 or 2017. It was some boot camp. And the HR director, she was the HR director at InterSwitch at the time. And she was saying, I'm learning to wear sneakers. And when it's time for TGIF, I'm with them. She's quite elderly, but she understood that she was going to lead HR and she was going to, carry the entire workforce along. She needs to come down to their level. And so I know for a fact that for many line managers, of course, for people who are older, the way you have to interact with your direct reports can impact on even how you become a better parent when you have older kids. And then, of course, you have access to multi-skilled teams. I've said that before. You have talent across generation. That's a plus, and that's something to be honest. So don't say, oh, let this generation sit down here, let the other generation sit at the far end, and then there's no real mix. You are leaving money on the table, and that's something to be honest. And then I'll look at, how do we manage a multi-generational workforce? What are things to take note of? And I think the first thing is open communication. And one thing, one key element of a great place to work is trust. So I know that where trust is, open communication becomes a thing, because you know that, I know you mean well. I know that whatever conversations we're having, you're not trying to get me. So if trust is there, I think the generations would blend very well. Yeah, we know that you're not going to throw me under the bus, or you're not out to get me. I think that gets me is what I'll stick to. And then we're able to work together. So open communication is very key. And then, of course, cultivate a positive company culture. The conversation around culture, thank you. The conversation around, organizational culture cannot be overemphasized. And I think for every organization, you need to make that a priority. We have diverse workforce. How are we deliberate to actually harness all the skills everybody brings to the table? And then, of course, train your employees on generational differences. So a baby boomer is a baby boomer, no doubt. There are a few things they can adjust. There are a few things that will be set in their ways, and that's a reality. But how do we make sure that the realities of each generation does not hinder our ability to build an organization that will thrive and stand the test of time? And then, of course, provide regular feedback. So all those things need to be embedded in how we run the organization, from the leadership team to the least person on the cadre. All those conversations need to be clearly shared. And then, of course, encourage developmental growth. So let people know, if I'm a younger person, what's the potential I have in this organization? What is it clear cut? Do I need to worry if I'll get promoted? Do I need to worry if my career will grow in this organization? If I have to worry, then be sure that I'm a flight risk. Because if you're not paying attention to the needs of each generation, then they won't stick around to find out. And then, of course, embrace work-life integration. There was something GT mentioned about the director of well-being. And I remember that in my last role, there was a role I actually created, before I left that organization to join this current organization I'm at. And it was called the People Happiness Officer. I can't remember what we called it. Yeah, it's important. So we need to be mindful of, creating an enabling environment and emphasizing work-life integration. We've said that balance is an illusion. We can't quite balance all the areas of our lives that are important, but we can sort of integrate. So as an organization, that needs to be a priority. Coupled with the fact that remote working, you are living at work. We call it working from home, but you're actually living at work. And so integration becomes very key. And then, of course, you need to recognize the talent in each generation. I've said that before. Every generation has the plus that they bring. We cannot undermine that or underestimate it. We need to emphasize it and, make sure we take advantage of it. And of course, embrace career advancement opportunities. For many young people, they just want to see, just show me. And that's why they won't stick around for too long. If it's not clear to them, if they cannot really feel that, you know, I'm going to move forward here, I'm going to make progress in this organization. My career development plan, I can have, and I like, that's why I always say to people, that's a place of self-awareness. You know, I'm an emotional intelligence trainer, and that's one thing I always emphasize. Because if you come from a place of self-awareness, you have a plan for your own self. You have a plan for your career. So for many people who are really self-aware, they have a plan for themselves. And so if I come into an organization, you better have a plan for me. And that becomes, you know, a deal breaker. So I'll round up by saying that generations have different values, not right or wrong. We can't afford to ignore all the talent each generation brings to the workplace. Instead, we should learn to celebrate their differences. Everybody has what they bring, and our ability to harness them and use them to thrive as a business is now our responsibility. And then, of course, as Generation Z enters the workforce, companies should create environments conducive to recruiting and retaining them. So right now in my organization, fine, we've built an amazing office space with amazing ambience, but we still do hybrid. Because it doesn't matter how beautiful my office is, and then there's free lunch and free snack and stuff. You still come, some people will come once a week, and that's fine. But I think for me, I'm a sucker for social connection. So I always say that we still need to see ourselves. We still need to be able to connect. There are some things that I can misunderstand or misconstrue on a Slack message that when we see face to face, I'm like, it's not that deep now. So this is what you're asking for. This is it. When we see ourselves. Me, I'm an advocate for that hybrid. Let's see ourselves. And then, of course, companies must show they are diverse, environmentally conscious, and on board with inclusion if they want to recruit and retain Gen Z workers. They want to work from anywhere. So, and this example I gave about social interaction, I say I have some people that are fully remote, I'll be honest, because in some cases it is that if you want my talent, I'm willing to work with you guys, but you may not see me at all. So yes, I'm saying the ability to be able to accommodate these different differences is what makes the difference. And then you understanding that we cannot live by the policy. Oh, the policy says, I can't remember when last I opened. We have policies, oh, don't get me wrong. But I'm saying for many of the interactions, many of the dealings with people every day, I may not be looking at the policy. And that's, just being very agile and being able to take decisions that don't put the business at risk. And then of course, a diverse workforce can drive behavior that translates in productivity and profit gains. Okay, I round up by saying multi-generational workforces are no different than a fruit salad. I mean, I was like fruit salads. You may not like the apple when it's alone or the watermelon by itself, but when you bring it in salad, there's a flavor that it gives. So each generation brings a different style and work ethic, and it all adds up in the end. All we need to do is to be inclusive and appreciate the diversity. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Jumoke. See, I knew your name was Jam for a reason. She added that sweet flavor the conversation. So I'm looking at the program and I'm not finding the part that talks about the networking part. I'm sure it's there, but it's not in my own program. So just to make sure that I don't miss it, I want to try and wake us up because it's raining outside and the weather is doing some things to some people. So I want to give us a quick activity before I introduce the last speaker. Please permit me. I am the moderator, so I have the mic and I think I have a bit of power at this time. So we're going to play a quick game of bingo. I have a few questions here. It might require you to stand up, so it's okay if you stand up, right, to get it done. So I'm gonna run through my questions. You need to get someone in the room that fulfills the criteria, and the first person to answer all the questions, or at least 6 out of it, wins. And we'll talk about your prize later. So first one is get someone who is an HR practitioner. So I need you to get someone. I'm starting easy. You see, I'm so nice. HR is nice. Get someone, but not me or anyone on the stage. So get someone in this room who is an HR practitioner. So I just need you to write their name. Get someone who works at SIAO. SIAO. Get someone who works there. Nobody from this table, by the way. Yep. No one from this table. And if they're the only ones, I guess that's one of the questions you've missed. Another one is someone whose name starts with S. Someone whose name starts with S. This is probably where you want to start standing up to ask questions. Just saying. In this room, someone whose name, it could be first, it could be last. I can give you expo, but I won't. Someone whose name starts with S. Someone who is not an HR practitioner. Someone who is not. Feel free to stand up, or don't be shy if you want to win the prize. Someone who is not an HR practitioner. Someone who only carries one phone around, just one phone. In this room, someone who does not have more than one phone, or at least here, they only came with one phone. Someone with one phone. You can participate, please. Don't worry, we're working towards it. Someone who doesn't work at SIAO and doesn't work in your office either. You need to get someone who doesn't work at SIAO and doesn't work at your office either. Someone who is a lefty, someone who writes with their left, does not write with the right. Someone who writes with the left. Someone who is not married. Someone who is not married. Maybe at this point, everyone can just raise their hands. Make it easy. Someone who isn't into coffee. Someone who is not a coffee person. So they might fall asleep if I didn't do this session because they didn't have any coffee. So I have said 9. Someone who is an HR practitioner, someone who works at SIAO, someone whose name starts with an S, someone who is not an HR practitioner, someone who only carries one phone around, just one phone, someone who doesn't work at SIAO and doesn't work in your office either. You don't know this person. Someone who is, no, it's not one, different people, just be packing them. Someone.
He's not an HR practitioner. She has one phone. She doesn't work. She's sick, but she doesn't work in SIO. She's an HR practitioner.
Amazing. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. This was an exercise. My name is Chibuzo. Into Eric is a long name, but you can call me Chibuzo. I'm head of people and culture for Bankley. Bankley is a fintech company. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. She got everything. With 2 people, she did. She did. Since that's how amazing HR is. No, but no, it's still okay. We have room for 2 more. We have room for 2 more. We're giving. Does anybody else want to give it a try? Anyone else? You? Okay, please come forward. Is he fulfilling all of your criteria? You people are amazing, no? That's the only thing. Okay. Okay, you tried. I just appreciate you guys standing up and moving around. Can I just say that? We have one more person who wants to give it a try. Oh, by the way, I have... okay, so please tell us about these people.
Oyetola Adesomi, a friend.
Why is the person a friend? What my question does it say a friend?
You said I should tell you about the person.
Yes, that fulfills my criteria. It's like you did another game.
No, not an HR practitioner. All right. Kazim Olokodano works at SIO. Shogunro, that's the name starts with S. Someone what? Who is not an HR practitioner? Lady Smith. Someone who only uses one phone. Dotun Kalejaye. Dotun Kalejaye. Someone who doesn't work at SIO and doesn't work in my office. Oyetola Adesomi. Someone who is a lefty, Fumi Jayola. Someone who is not married, Ruth Edokpai. The last question is what?
Coffee. Using a coffee person.
Someone who is not a coffee person, Flora Debu.
Flora, is it true? Flora.
You can verify. I should bring them out. Just a minute.
Let them signify that it's true. Oh.
HR practitioner, Juliana, please signify. SIAO Ruth. Everybody knows that one. Not an HR practitioner, Damilola. Not more than one phone, Damilola. Does not work at SIAO or my office, Mimi. Not married, Juliana. Not a coffee person, Juliana. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We didn't get to meet you though. You didn't introduce yourself. Thank you all for taking part. I really appreciate that. I do have an announcement. If you have any questions so far, the ushers actually have a card going around. If you would just write your question on the card so that at the end, when we have the Q&A session, I can just read out the questions directly and we can do it orderly, please. Thank you. So now, I haven't forgotten that we just did the icebreaker, so the host will help us announce the presents. But at this time, I would like to introduce the final session, which would be on keeping the human touch alive. While I am not permitted to introduce him, I do want to say that at this point, I will be changing my name. Since everyone is doing GT, JAM, and YF, you may call me TA. Thank you.
Thanks, TA. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yemi Fashio, and privileged to be here. GT started by asking questions. I am a retired table shaker. You see some bottles of water moving on your tables. It might just be because of the things that I will say. So I was going to talk about the bringing back in HR. And the first thing I'd like to say is that, and that might sound or will sound like a table shaking sentence, it is not the responsibility of HR to bring back the human in people management. Who has that responsibility? Who? Everyone. She says everyone. Is that correct? See, we're not sure. HR folks, we have been used to that power over a period of time. And this is the way I made the expression about maybe 8 to 9 months ago. The primary responsibility of managing people has been outsourced to HR for a very long time. And because we love power, what did we do? We accepted it. We do the hiring and fire. We don't have nothing. It's not our responsibility to hire, actually. That's part of the new HR that we must start right now. If you want to see yourself as an HR person, just see yourself as working with Ruth at SIAO or CIO, like somebody said. That's your responsibility. We are only in advisory capacity for as long as people management responsibilities are concerned. We need to start changing that mindset. I promise you that for as far back as 2007, as head of HR at Stanbic IBTC, I wasn't signing offer letters. Every line manager from every function, and this was how many years ago? 15 years ago, was signing offer letters. When it was time to determine reward, the line managers were determining the reward. So the future already started happening a long time ago, but the point is some of us are still waiting for the future that has already happened, and what that means is that we are living in the past. It's not our responsibility to bring back the human in HR. It is the line manager's responsibility. Let me take somebody as an example. Anybody who's a volunteer? Yes, please. Your organization, what floor are you? Are you an HR person? No, I'm looking for an HR person. My apologies. Juliana, what floor is your department in your organization? Last floor. How many floors? 3 floors. So 3-floor organization, and you're on the last floor, right? How many departments do you have? 8. How many times a day do you see people in other departments? Not a lot. Assume that we're all working physically. How many times do you see them a day? Everybody. Who are they working with? Who should manage their day-to-day people management responsibilities? But when it is time for them to get feedback, where do they send them to? Can we relate? When it is time for them to know their appraisal ratings, where do they send them to? When it's time to know whether they're promoted or not, or the reasons for not being promoted, where do the line managers send them to? And what do HR people do? Sincerely, what do we do? We admit those responsibilities, we tell them their ratings, we tell them the reasons why they're not promoted, and then the next cycle, what happens? Where are they going to come to? Send them back to where they belong. The primary responsibilities of managing people in organizations with line managers. That's the new HR. Free all these responsibilities, execution for your organization. We are not the hiring and firing department. The entire level of the employee is the primary, and I'm deliberate about my words, primary responsibility of who? The line managers. Do we have, by all means, but that responsibility is secondary. It is not our responsibility. So next time, end of this year, when appraisal is done and they want to know their performance appraisal rating, if the line manager send them to you, what should you do? Send them back. And if your MD is saying, well, what kind of HR are you practicing? Please mention my name. Let him speak. So I'm looking at that conversation this afternoon from the point of view of let's put back the human in people management to exactly where it belongs. And I'm looking at 3 points. I don't have an outline. I don't have an outline for this because I'm talking of 3 things only. The main areas where we must feel the human touch in every organization. Number 1 is culture. Number 2 is leadership, experience. Those 3 areas, HR has shared responsibilities and not primary responsibilities. I'll say them again. Culture, its leadership, and its employee experience. So what's culture? How is it defined? How have you defined culture up to this point? Who can define culture? Let's make it interactive. I like conversations. Who can define culture? Culture? What is culture to you? I can call names. I know a few people in the room. I just met, I forgot her name. Yes, please, go ahead. The totality of people's way of life in a particular setting or location or organization. Right, thank you. One hand was raised. Hello, are you still defining culture? Now she's looking away from me. Are you still defining culture? Exactly the same thing. Who has a different definition? Yes, please, go ahead. Right. Shared beliefs, practices, or assumed shared beliefs and practices.
What happens? What happens most of the time is assumed. I think my voice is loud. I think what happens. Yes, we think that.
Okay. All right, thank you. Both definitions absolutely correct. So the first area, the first point where we need to put back the human or the human touch in the organization is the area of culture. Any ancestor, sorry, what did you call them? The very first generation. The silent generation. Anyone in the house? I'm looking at you, sir. I'm expecting you to raise your hand, sir. Yes, sir. Are you a millennial? After anybody in the baby boomer generation in the room? None? Baby boomer 1965, Juwange. Baby boomer 1965 to 19, no, you said 46 to 65. They were born 46 to 65, yes. To 1965, that was when they came into the world. Maybe young, no, they're not younger, sir. I know you want to relate with us millennials, but I know. Any baby boomer in the house, Generation X, millennials? Did you say everybody, sir? Gen Zs? Okay, no Gen Z in the house. That's interesting. Who do you think is defining the culture of organization at the moment? Millennials, your reign is over. It took a very short time, but your reign is over. The new generation, Gen Zs and the Alpha generation, they are defining the culture in the organization. And we all need to be alive and to wake up to the new reality around culture conversations. It's totally, I mean, the older generations, culture is you walk into SIAO and you see it on the walls. The value, the vision, the mission, the strategic objectives, and then the values of the organization. Everybody knows it. But guess what? Nobody knows it. Because when you go to a training in that organization and you call somebody to tell us the values of the organization, everybody's just looking away. Don't call me, don't call me. Meanwhile, those things are on the walls, right? But culture today is totally been defined in a different way by the new generation. And we need to listen to what the new generations are saying about culture, not what we have posted or pasted on our walls, not what we have on our website. Culture is totally different. And this is how I've defined culture, or how I see culture. Standalone elements of culture will be standard policies, your compensation, your environment and atmosphere, the organization itself, how it appeals to us, leadership, the people in it. Those are all elements of culture. But if you look at them from a standalone perspective, it wouldn't make sense. You really need to now move and see that they're all interrelated. They're not standalone in the real sense of it. So there are some things that are the same stand alone, but there's so many other things, like 4 or 5 things hanging on something. Your policies, virtually everything hangs on the policies in the organization, right? The structure of the organization, the hierarchy, the authority levels, the org structure, the departments, the unwritten rules. Those are more important. The way the things that we say are related to culture, the way they interrelate in the organization, that's even more important. Let me give you an example. Way back, please don't mention the bank. If you know the bank, I'm pleading, because there might be somebody who works in that organization here, so that they don't get traumatized. We were told that you could take your soup, either okra soup or a foriro, to work, a bank, and you carry, somebody already say, yeah, and you carry your gari in a bag. When you get to work, you'll use either boiling ring to warm the water, make it really hot, and make your gari in the kitchenette, and then you sit in the kitchenette and you eat your lunch. And that was the culture of that organization. Was that written anywhere in terms of rules, processes, standards, and all that? So what is culture? Culture is what is allowed. Culture is what we reward. Culture, like she says, is a way of life. Let me tell you how I love to define culture. And I like the way the room is right now. Who was here when the room was well lit? When we first came in, the room was well lit, right? Fully well lit. Now, look at the way it is right now. If this was somebody's living room, right? If this was my living room, and I have up to, let's say, 12 bulbs that could light up the room, and then 1 or 2, let's say 1 goes off, and I don't change it over a period of time, what will happen to me? When I get to my living room, what will happen? You get used to it. And then 3 goes off, or 4, and you don't change it over a period of time, what happens? You get used to it. And somebody comes and says, Yemi, why is your living room not well lit? I'll be like, are you blind? Can't you see? Because we are what? We are used to it. What was the living room made for? A 12-bulb environment. But because the lights were going out and we were not replacing, what was happening? We were redefining the culture of the living room. So culture is what we get used to. It's what we reward. It's what we allow. So how are all these things interrelated? Because these are all elements of the interconnection between people in the organization. Now, it gets more complex if you look at it from an iceberg perspective. So there are some things that we see clearly from a culture perspective. You see your strategy, you see your values, you see the way we say we get things done. But those are the things that we see on the surface. But all the other things that are even more important defining the culture of the organization, where are they? Beneath the surface. Those unwritten rules, those behaviors, the way we make that a bar in the organization. If I put 10 bankers in this room now, and I'm looking at them from CCTV, right? Over a period of time, 3 to 4 hours, I could almost accurately say to you where each person works because of the things they say, how they say it, and in some instances, maybe how they appear. I know a particular bank, once the guy comes in, you will see that this guy is, let me not call the name of the bank, because you're not sure what he's wearing, whether it's a coat or a suit or a blazer. It's kosuble, that's what they call it. You're not sure. Who can relate with that bank? Don't say it. You can relate, it's okay. Those things are unwritten, right? The individual gets into the organization and sees the way everybody is dressing. And I say, hey, that's how we do things here. But that is beneath, unwritten, right? The tradition, there are some organizations, they can only wear red ties. A couple of decades ago, one particular bank, it's only white shirts and blue shirts allowed. That's culture. And in actual fact, some of those things are said, nobody says it. So culture, what's the culture of the organization like, to the point where we are not leaving anyone behind, but we're all collectively moving towards the same direction from an organizational perspective? What stories do you tell? Let me give you an instance. I work with a telco. Don't go check my profile so you don't know which telco. And we had a boarding system for call center agents. We said that before they eventually come to the organization, they'll sit with somebody and really work with them for 6 or 8 hours so that they'll know what the call center job entailed at that time. Do you know what we got? Somebody will be working as a body, a candidate sitting beside her, and then will say, this is what you want to do. I'm sorry for you. I've been here for about 4 or 5 years. I haven't changed this up. You still want to come? What is that? That's culture. Those are the stories that are going around the organization. We were looking for bodies. We didn't know that we got discouragers. So what's the culture of your organization like? What are the feelings like? The smell, you know, the smell of the place. Once we get to the reception and we see that the MD walks in, the whole place that was lively and happy, all of a sudden, everybody goes quiet. Remember when we were younger, mommy and daddy will blare the horn from the gate and everybody will take a dive. That's culture. And that's how we are telling people how humanly we want to be in our organization. Perceptions, beliefs, the shared beliefs. Okay. Is this true? Culture is strategy for breakfast. What's more important, strategy or culture? What's more important? Who remembers some of the organizations that were mentioned on Twitter a couple of weeks ago? Who remembers their strategy? Who remembers their strategy? They are multi-billion naira, multi-billion dollar businesses, but given the mention for 5-6 hours on Twitter Space that evening into early morning, do we remember their strategy? But do we remember their culture now? Or do we have an idea of what the culture is? So what's more important, strategy or culture? Culture. So strategy, it's, culture is strategy for breakfast, the reality. And then let's move on to who should be driving culture in the organization. Again, if I ask a question, who is the custodian of culture? There might be a cross answer. People will say HR. But are we? No, we're not. It's actually leadership. And please, permit me to quickly say that when I say leadership, I'm not talking about executive leadership. I'm not talking about the managing partner or the partners in the organization. I'm not talking about the assistant directors. I'm talking about the team lead. I'm talking about the supervisor, the line manager, the head of the unit, every single person in the organization with responsibilities to manage 2, 3, 5, 7, or 10 people. They're all leaders in the organization. So HR, again, another time for you to redirect traffic. When you are dealing culture and leadership in your organization, please don't assume those responsibilities. We are process owners. I totally agree. We are in advisory capacity to the business by all means, but let's not take on those responsibilities. I had a 20, 30-minute conversation with somebody in this room this morning, and those were the conversations we're having. One of the reasons we have conflict in the environment today between the generations is because we are not getting people ready for leadership positions, and we are putting them in leadership positions. So when the millennials came, we were thinking, who are these guys, right? Digital savvy, blah, 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 and all that. And they were giving us grief in terms of their way of life, remote working and all of that and all of that. But guess who's sending the millennials to therapy these days? The Gen Zs. And what has happened is that the millennials could do things, technically they could achieve results, they could move the businesses forward and all that. And what were we doing on a year-to-year basis? We were promoting them because of their technical abilities. And after a while, we promoted them into leadership positions. Did we get them ready for leadership? No, we didn't. They were still struggling to manage self, and then we gave them Gen Zs to manage. And those ones are not taking prisoners, if you know what I mean. So let's go back to the basics, HR folks. Let's go back to conversations around culture. Let's link conversations around culture to leadership. It is our responsibility to manage that process, but please let power to make things happen reside exactly where it is. And where is that? With leadership and with line managers. Okay, so we thought that all we needed to do was to listen, right? We need to foster a culture of innovation. This is a line manager, a business manager, a leader, saying that we need to foster a culture of innovation, and asking questions seems to be a collaborating manager. And somebody says, yeah, you could give us less work and you could stop criticizing every idea we have. And what was the response? Can you relate? Oh, somebody said yes. Can you relate? Please take time to also do some sort of self-reflection, because I see individuals who are already managing people in the room. We're managing millennials and we're managing Gen Zs. How do we communicate with them from a leadership perspective? How should we get the leaders ready so that we can bring back the human in our workplaces, so that we can take that responsibility away? HR guys are drowning. They're not telling you, let me help them tell you. If you're a business owner listening to me right now, these guys are drowning, especially in one-man businesses and SMEs. The challenges are huge. Do I have a witness in the house? The challenges are huge because we're expecting them to do magic. Meanwhile, the things that we should do, the basics of culture and leadership, we are leaving them undone. Let's go back to the basics around culture and leadership. If we don't get leadership right, we will not get culture right. As a matter of fact, if you look at the mirror and you place culture in front of the mirror, what should you see on the other side? Leadership. It's not going to happen unless we have very frank conversations around leadership. Leadership is a burden. Can I just quickly say it's a burden? We like the authority that comes with it. Many people like the authority that comes with it, but we ignore the responsibilities of bringing people up to speed. So I had a conversation with two people yesterday at very close intervals, and both of them were going to report their Gen Z associates to me. And they were expecting some form of sympathy from me. But for each of them, I spent about 30 to 35 minutes telling them while they are failing. They're not connecting. They're not engaging. They are living in this world of the millennials, and they're expecting those guys to come and meet them in that world. Is that going to happen? Is that going to happen? Did the millennials go to meet the older generation in their world? No. What adjectives did you use to qualify them? Old-fashioned, same old, conservative, and all that. And you drill them into your world so that they can understand you. Now, the same thing for the new worker, the Alpha generation and the Gen Zs. Your responsibility, no, this is predominantly HR. Our responsibility as HR folks is to help leaders and people managers in the business to understand the burden of leadership, the responsibilities that come with it, so that they can leave their comfort world and go meet these guys. You know the power distance theory between the generations, right? There is a kind of distance. Who has the responsibility to close that distance? The managers, the people managers, the leaders. It's a responsibility that we bear. We don't have a choice but to do it. So the mirror of culture is leadership. If you don't get it right, attrition will continue to rise. We will continue to lose our people to Canada. Can I say the truth? Based on my conversation in the last 3 to 4 years, we've actually, leadership in organization, we've actually sent more people out of Nigeria to those countries, the reality. Because they start looking for other options when they move from one organization to another and culture sucks, leadership sucks. What are they going to be doing? They're going to be looking for other opportunities. And are those opportunities around them? Absolutely. Because of virtualization, globalization, and all the leveraging opportunities around technology, they can do some other things. And even if they're not going to go to Canada, rather than them coming to work one day or every day, and the leader is saying to them, are you stupid? Are you okay? And all that. They'll probably wait for the weekend to do face beating, photography, events management, and gele tying at parties over the weekend. I met somebody who makes about 100,000 to 150,000 every weekend by sitting, a Gen Z person, by sitting somewhere or understanding where events are happening. And the older generation who don't have time to tie gele or makeup, they're on the queue. Who can relate? They're on the queue at those events so that these guys can do face beating. Face beating is makeup. Face beating and tying gele for them. And they're making 10K per person. They control their time. They can do some other things, but they come to work 8 to 5 and they don't get the right sort of leadership. The older generation, you know what we did? We moaned, we groaned for 29 days. On the 30th day, we were happy. because it was payday. And then we went to do TGIF, and work continued on Monday, the cycle. Will this current generation do that? No way, they won't. So what are you giving them? And it's not just that we are saying listen to them, we are saying you've got to do, you've got to make changes happen. You've got to make changes happen as leaders. The human that we're looking for in organizations so that we can stem the attrition, so that we can have great workplaces in Nigeria, that responsibility is sitting with leaders, not with HR. HR guys, please redirect what? Traffic. Sit with your executive and let them realize that you sit on the third floor, you don't work with them every day. The guys who work with them, I mean, why should HR have the KPI of talent attrition? Who has that in his or her KPI here? And retaining talent, you have it. That's old HR. Should that be HR's responsibility? Do we work with these guys 8 to 5? But push back, guys. It's not your responsibility. They don't work with you. People management is not your responsibility. Okay? So moving on. We're looking for great leadership that will make the environment lively. A video of mine went viral about sometime last year, and I went into the pool of guys who work with me, and I saw a ball. And I told them, hey guys, I can jump this ball 20 times. They were like, why? Immediately in my office, you saw, yeah? In my office, so what did I do? I did 53. We're looking for leaders who will galvanize the team, right? We're not looking for leaders who will sit in their offices and will be making calls, come over to me and all that. No, we're looking for different set of leaders in the now of work. Things have changed. We're looking for leaders who will connect, engage. We're looking for leaders with new critical leadership competencies that I call connectedness, humility, and empathy. So what's your attitude? What's your communication like? The communication skills that led you to where you are now, that led some managers to where they are now, isn't working anymore. We need to change. And as HR people, we need to work with them to change. Commitment, delegation. The reason some people don't delegate is because they just love the power that comes with everything. And you can relate with so many managers when you send them work and they want to send it to their own boss. What would they do to that email? They will highlight the fact that you sent it to them. After highlighting, what would they punch? Delete. And then they forward it. Who takes the credit for the work? They do. And then the guy who's done all the work for 3 nights and 4 nights gets no mention at all. Been working with an organization for about 8 weeks now, and one guy gave an instance of a particular manager. Every time he goes to present something at Elco, before he leaves the meeting, he will work with them. Time you will see top leaders in the corridor, they will say, GT, well done, good job. And then he was wondering, where was that coming from? Because the boss was always giving him a mention. GT want to lead that organization in a hurry? Absolutely not. So let's change our leadership approach. Let's change the leadership conversations in our organization. I'm running down gradually. So it's about communication, innovation, networking, consensus building. You must buy into the vision of the organization as a leader, and then you can sell that vision. Yes, it's about strategy and it's about coaching. And I see so many people asking line managers to have coaching competencies. But you can't coach if you've not connected with them. What are you coaching? They're just listening to you, but they're saying to you that I'm not following you, I can't connect with you. You can't coach me, right? But it's got to happen. And last thing, employee experience. It's not about the gym, it's not about the pool, it's not about the TGIM every time, right? It's more than that. While you are doing, yes, I have booked the whole team lunch in seconds on my phone. So what did you guys want to discuss? What are they saying? They're saying why it takes days to approve our time off requests. Now, the time off request for them, it seems to be like below the line or below the surface stuff that the line manager isn't seeing. But what is it concentrating on? Small chops, TGIF, team building, the other things that, oh yeah, we built a gym. You can now do X, Y, Z. But the guys are not, they say no, the little things. Leadership is in the little, employee experience is in the little things, really, right? It's in the connection, it's in the, listen to me. It's in design thinking. Don't do things that you want to do for the team. What should you do? Do the things that the team will want you to do for them. That's employee experience. That's bringing human back to the people management space. So don't concentrate only on the hard stuff. And I'll leave you with two quotes from two guys that I follow, and they just turn out amazing things in terms of bringing back the human into the workplaces. Adam Grant says, to every company offering wellness stipends to fight burnout, you are funding gym visits. They don't even go there. You are funding vacations. Maybe they don't want that. And a healthy meal. All that he says are just like a what? Like a bandage on the wound. What are they looking for? A cure. Why should you send them messages at 2 a.m. and expect a response at 8 a.m.? And I'm telling you realities. And then you are funding gym visits. It's someone who is a bit healthy that can go and carry earring. What's earring in English? So that you can have muscles like bigger, right? But the point is, guys, I say, no, that's not what we want. We just want you to speak to us as human beings. We want you to pass through the office environment and you just say, how are you doing? To some people, that is huge. Can I tell you a story of a guy was going to commit suicide, but change jobs from one organization to commit suicide. Every day after work, he will get home and put the gun to his mouth and say, one day I'll pull the trigger. But because of that almost voiceless connection between a new manager and himself, he began to see life from a different perspective. And then one day, they his office and say, what's wrong with you? I don't see you talk a lot and all that. And then he opened up. Guess what happened to him that day? He got home and he sold the gun just by somebody connecting. Meanwhile, again, some other organization is about building a gym. It's about having table tennis. It's about, it goes beyond all of that. Those are all bandages. Let's look for cures for the wound. If you really care about well-being, you might want to stop overloading people with grueling work and subjecting them to abusive bosses. That's not the HR's responsibility. Who has that responsibility? Line managers, people managers. People are looking for places of psychological safety. When on Sunday they are looking forward to work on Monday, they are thinking about work with some level of, it's going to be a great time again. But so many people have palpitations in their hearts when they think about Monday. And by the time it's 12 noon on Monday, they are already looking towards Friday. So what's the culture? What's the temperature in your room like? And last one is from Simon Sinek. The courage of leadership is giving the others the chance to succeed, even though you bear the responsibility for getting things done. So you can delegate, but you retain ultimate accountability. But you've got to work with people, make them thrive, make the environment safe for them. Summary, from an employee experience perspective, the new workplace, what are we looking for? Meaningful work. Is that a lot to ask for? Not a lot. Just give me meaningful work. Money is good, but meaningful work is better. Hands-on management, show me how things are doing. I want to know my KPIs. We are in June. In some organizations, some people don't know what they're working towards. And at the end of the year, would that be an appraisal? Yes, there will be. And then when it's the end of the year, somebody will say, June 22, this year, I gave you a report to do, you didn't do it. In December, to a generation now. Somebody who takes a picture and puts up on social media immediately, and 5 minutes later, what are they looking for? Likes? Comments? I'm looking for a particular word, cheers. Validation. For such an individual, you're waiting till December before you remind them of what they didn't do well in June. Have you lost them or not? Absolutely. Flexible work environment, if it's possible. Growth opportunities, trust in leadership, and of course, health and well-being beyond all else. If you can do all of this put together because of the web or the connectivity between culture, leadership, and employee well-being, then the human that we're looking for from human resources, which has been elusive over the years, will probably come back into workplaces in Nigeria and possibly globally. let me remind you, in the final analysis, HR is an employee. Okay, so now that we've talked about all of that, diversity, we've talked about connection and all that, what is the purpose of being in business? To do what? So please, let's balance it. All the things that I've said, on the other side of the scale, there must be results to show for it. Because at the end of the day, is the reason why we're at work. Disclaimer, my disclaimer is this: all those pictures, they were not mine originally. I didn't draw them. So don't go back thinking, great slide. They were all copied from the internet. I promise you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. If we have any questions, if I can have someone, okay. Yeah, if I can have the hostess, can I have the ushers please go around and help me collect my questions? Thank you very much. I hope we all enjoyed all the sessions. I hope we also believe that we've learned something we can take home, something we can challenge. Please don't challenge and get fired though. But if you challenge, remember what I said. I think that's fine. Fine. Thank you so much. Okay. Okay, so the first one is not a question. I guess this is a contribution. It says information on the new labor standard bill, the bill that will replace the current labor laws. It's on the occupational safety health bill, which is referring to the topic that GT was talking about. So the occupational safety and health bill defines the workplace to include any premises or place where a person performs any work or needs to be or is required to be in the course of the employment, which means they're working remotely, if they're working from Bora Bora, if they're working from their bedroom, all of this is considered a workplace. So this will effectively take care of the working from home issues. Thank you so much, Mr. Wale Smart, for sharing this.
Sorry, but what that means to every one of us is to make room for that adjustment in our own policies and start preparing organizations for that change once the policy is then announced.
Thank you. I have 3 questions on one sheet. I would read all the questions, and because there's 3 of you, you can pick the one you choose to respond to. Yes, fastest fingers first. All right, so the first question says, how do you blend cultures to suit the diverse generations in a workplace? So how do you blend cultures to suit the diverse generations, or how do you, I guess, have one culture to suit the the diversity in the workplace? The next question says, young people prefer to be called by their first name. Yes, I'm young. Does an this, or you select? Last question is, how do you keep training workforce? You can't bond any staff. How do you keep training them if they will not stay?
Okay, so I'll pick the very last question. Having these, as a community, we've dealt with it long enough. But I'll look at the second part of that question. Yes, it's expensive. Yes, there's a cost to training people to get the job done. However, what we've always said is if they are ignorant and they don't know the job, what will be the cost of the errors and the mistakes and constant feedbacks and reviews. But then again, like Yemi said when he was closing, it's that balance between the cost of running the business and investing in talent development. But we can't just totally rule it out. We must find what works for our peculiar organizations and strike a balance in some way. Because at the end of the day, capacity capacity development is not just down to training. In some cases, again, which ties to the issue of a diverse workforce, is your mentorship program and allowing younger people coming into your workforce to have access to other people in that organization. So that way, a popular one I talk about a lot, for instance, I personally don't think if your organization needs to train on the use of Excel, you don't have to, I think, spend money at basic and intermediate level, because you will find people within the same organization that are that good. So why not just arrange short knowledge sharing sessions to take care of the basic and intermediate? And once you get everybody up to a stage, you can then go outside and get an external person that is perhaps very good at advanced level to then come and take, say, advanced Excel and modeling or forecasting sessions. But that, to do basic and intermediate, you should work with internal faculty, in my opinion.
Okay, all right. Okay, let's try now. All right. I almost can say with a maybe 95, 98% assurance that the person who asked that question, the last one, must be of the older generation. Because training itself has become commoditized. Training is what we can be doing as we are seated here now, isn't it? It's no longer that huge line element on your budget that's costing 200 million naira because you're going to rent a place at a Koyi hotel or a Co hotel. You're going to do lunch. You're going to do small chops in the morning and tea break in the afternoon. We've gone beyond all of that. So many free training programs. And like I said, highly commoditized. Data has become a commodity, almost free now. And training programs are all over the place. So why are we still thinking that we can hold people back by not training them? It's a disservice to the organization. And now something I scripted in 2019, May 2019. Let me read it out verbatim. I said the talent game has changed. Given that the horizon of today's talents have become global, they are unbounded talents, and career has become a short-termism phenomenon, the conversations around talent seem to be moving away from talent retention to talent contribution. And by this, I mean contributing quality talent, that is by developing them, to the sector of operation, other sectors, other countries, and from an African perspective to the rest of the world. What quality of talent are we therefore contributing to the talent pool such that when we need talent from the same pool, we'll be getting quality talents? That should be the focus of the conversations rather than bonds, or if I don't train them, what would they do?
But how about I have LinkedIn Learning on my own phone as an individual, and I learn by it's important to me, it's part of my personal development plan. So I'm not really waiting around for an organization to do that. So imagine when you don't do it. So that's that. I was going to say something about culture and the generations. And I think YF alluded to that earlier when he said we should co-create with our people. So you have different generations represented in the workplace, and you're wondering, how do we manage? You know, what kind of culture should we create? I don't know how many Yorubas are here. Allow me to speak Yoruba, you know, to allow me. There's something in Yoruba that says, am I correct? Yeah. So it is that, let us involve these generations. We have established that they have different needs and aspirations. And so if we involve them in that creation process, we will know what they want. I said earlier that, in my organization, we have hybrid. So there are some people I don't see at all. They have that fully remote option. And it's our ability to be able to, accommodate all of that. But if there's anything that remains a priority, even with all the fine things I would say about what we do in my organization, it is that you have a responsibility to deliver on the task assigned to you. In the shape, the form, the time, the place, neither here nor there. So I think if you're looking at, generations and the kind of culture we will build as an organization, we can't do it behind the individuals. Why I've talked about design thinking, involve them, create focus groups. One thing I found over the years in my career in HR, when you involve employees in the things you want to do as HR, you just sit down and cross your leg. The way they'll be running after you, like, why are you taking it so personally? Because you've involved them. But if you come, like what I've said before, you want to be the HR champion or the HR superstar, the Mama Sale of HR, and you want to be dishing out, this is how we're going to do it. That's when people revolt. So let's involve our people. And then everything you want to do is really for them. So let them tell you what they want, how they want it, where they want it, when they want it. And that's not to say we can accommodate everything. So when we say fully remote, for instance, a manufacturing organization may not be able to afford that luxury. So you also need to be mindful to bring it into context. So don't let us go about will to work. Well, can it work for your environment? We need to be mindful of that.
Can I also say that a lot in the new world of HR from state? I'm in 2, 3, 4 groups with GT. I'm in 2, 3, 4 groups with you. And you see people just come. I'm looking at initiatives in EAP, Employee Assistance Programs. And then people will share, possibly. And then you know what will happen? The individual will just do copy and then go to their own organizations to do what? To paste. So copy by all means, share notices, but before you paste, edit. Edit, 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 and finally edit one more time. Edit for context. Edit for the evolution of your own organization. Don't do swimming pool when people cannot swim. Don't waste money because, in that particular organization, that's what they've done and it's working for them. Don't build a small gym somewhere for your organization if it's not going to work for your organization. If you're largely an ancestor reading generation, don't go copy what is in the Gen Z environment. I'm just saying, okay, sorry. We're not shaking too. So don't copy those things and paste and think that it's going to work, right? So let's, I think it's the father of Mother Nature. I always forget his name. David will say we are in the era of HR for all those waves of admin into HR strategy, into HR BP. But now we are in the era of HR for context. We were so used to copying and pasting policies. The same, you can almost see the same policy in every organization, but it's not the same thing anymore. Let's not be lazy as HR people to just do copy and paste. Let's try and do HR for context around culture, around employee well-being, around employee assistance programs. And like she said, let's co-create with the workforce and we will get better results.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. 2 questions weren't addressed though. But I would like to say though that when we respond to questions, let's just try and manage our time. So we still have the question in regards to blending. So another question, which is very similar to that, says, how do we put a balance in the cultural representation such that one generation does not get kicked out while embracing the new one? So this goes back to the whole balance, like how can we manage that? And then younger people prefer to be called by their first names. How do we balance, some people, like I'm saying Mr. GT here, but I'm saying Jam there. Thank you.
Make it easy for yourself. Just check your demographics. You have 100 people, you have 50 people in your organization. What's the distribution like? How many people do you have in each of those generations, right? That gives you some context to work with. Things around first names and things like that, and again, put it within the context of the country where we live in or the organization where, so if you are in an organization that has not just multi-generations, but have people from other parts of the world, for instance, an American or a British person is somewhat by culture used to that. A Nigerian person, maybe say from the East, it's strange. Don't force it on that person. So what you see happen in reality is even if the policy says first names, you then hear people hide under titles, MD, instead of Dotun or ED and things like that. So again, allow for that context. Is that wrong? No. But understand the demographic you have, your demographics, and look at what can happen and give it time. Because I can as well call you your name and be very.
Okay, I think it's back to your reality as a business. What works for you? If you're looking at all the representation, what would you rather do? Should you have younger people? It's a function of, and there are cultures and there are subcultures. What you are, be the same demands you expect from a sales department, for instance. So you can't outsource it. You're looking internally to say, what are my realities as a business? And that would determine how I hire, the kind of people I hire into different roles within the organization. So it's really just bringing it back to what your realities are.
Thank you. Pop quiz. Do you think Gen Zs can lead an organization successfully? So the answer is
yes, yeah?
Yes.
But with a caveat, if we don't get them ready for those responsibilities, we will continue to have instances of leadership crisis. Funds is not the same thing as raising people. Not the same thing. Anybody can raise funds, but not anybody can lead without getting ready for leadership positions. We need to make that clear. And like I said, the millennials have quickly come into leadership positions, and they're struggling to manage the Gen Zs. We are still struggling with that crisis, and we are saying, can Gen Zs be in leadership positions? My answer is yes, but with a caveat. There has to be a roadmap into leadership positions. And organizations must take this as something that must be institutionalized. When you want to step them up into leadership positions, step them up by getting them ready first, or as soon as they get into those positions. Many of them are struggling. So let's get them ready first before we move them into those positions.
So follow-up question, just to let us see how we can create this balance and get the most out of all the generations without overemphasizing and have the leverage in technology and speed and are not exactly risk averse and all those things more peculiar to them. So do we stand a chance of having more organizations where we would take advantage of the entrepreneurial dimensions of the younger generation, but have, in quotes, more experienced older hands manage those organizations? Would that work?
I think the war will continue, the war of the generations, definitely. But we need the wisdom of the old and the agility of the new. So somebody coined a word recently, adaptagility. So we need the older generation, right, to the agility of the newer generation. And we need the new generations as well to respond, because it's synergy, actually. If we all come to the table with all that we've got, it's to the benefit of the organization. But the first thing we need to do is to unscript the biases. So one generation here looking at them and saying, impatient, in a hurry to succeed, always on the phone. multitasking. And they, on the other side, are saying old-fashioned, conservative, same old, same old. We need to first unscript all of that. And it is, there was something I said about last week. The word impatient was not a new word because of the new generation. Did we have impatient people in the older generation? Did we have rude people in the older generation? Did we have, what did we just use now? Anything that we've called the newer generation, did we have them in the newer generation? Absolutely. I worked in 12 organizations until I moved away from 8 to 5. What generation am I? 12 organizations. I've done 6 months. I've done 1 year. So we need to move away from those hasty generalizations and concentrate more on connecting, understanding, closing the gap, moving away from where we are to where they are and try to understand them. Those guys are not going to change to our side. And I'm talking to the older generation now. We need to make that incursion into their world, understand where they're coming from, engage with them, and then perhaps over a period of time, we definitely will close that gap.
Thank you very much. So I have another quick contribution by Ikechukwu. He says, culture is also the lifestyle of leadership, regardless of any known mantra. What the team sees, experiences, the culture that they know. That's who we truly are. Thank you, Ikechukwu. All right, so next question. How well and what ways can one ensure engagement or retention, especially as an organization with remote workers? So how well and what ways can you ensure like your team is staying engaged and you are retaining your talent if your organization has remote workers?
Okay, so largely, I've said before, it's first to get a sense for what are the expectations. There's whatever recommendations you're going to be making, it has to be a function of what they want or what works for them. So that constant conversations with, your employees, make sure that line managers are also equipped to have this, engagement conversations. Very important, because you as HR, and I think YF has clearly explained that to us earlier today to say it's not solely HR's responsibility. We can facilitate this process. People are working remotely. It's not about you as HR trying to talk to everybody every day. It's not likely. But how well are they engaging with their line managers? So it's constantly making sure that line managers are equipped to constantly engage with our people. And of course, you come up with, having engaged employees, come up with different employee engagement initiatives that can keep them engaged even as they work remotely. But whatever recommendations you're making, I'll say it again, is by engaging them first to say, okay, let's come together. What are the things we want to do? How do we want to do them? Because when we involve them, when we engage them, they will drive it. And they, of course, will champion whatever recommendations we're making. But I think largely is you as HR looking inwardly and engaging line managers, equipping line managers, not making everyone think, oh, it starts and ends with me as HR. Largely, you have to work with line managers. And of course, leadership, because whatever it is, I would say, if you find an organization that is very engaged, no matter how bright the ideas the HR person has, go and check the CEO. No matter your bright ideas as a HR person, if you don't have a CEO that will give you the go ahead, if you don't have the CEO that will tell CFO to release the funds, you are just joking. So if you're looking for a highly engaged environment, be sure that you are not just building castles in the air. Your CEO wants, what kind of organization does he want? I was saying to someone earlier today that before coming here, I sent a message to my CEO to say, oh, I'll be here, all the best, go for it. And I'm like real bosses that you have to say hospital or something. I don't know. So yes, it's a function of leadership first and then line managers. And you as HR, of course, you are there. We're saying earlier that YF said, don't think you are everything as HR. We are like midwives. We're going to help line managers have with the people, but you should not make that your responsibility as HR. So we are there to support, we're there to give all that guidance, but let's hold line managers accountable for all of these things we're talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, Jam. All right, so next question. How do we curb abusive leadership, especially on line managers? How do we curb abusive leadership, especially on the line managerial level?
culture is what we allow. So while we preach connectedness and engaging and inclusive communication and all, must not forget to also preach consequence management. So when that light goes off in the room, what should we do immediately? Change it, management. So if you don't do it first time, second time, everybody then believes that that's the way things are done here. It becomes an unwritten rule. So on one side is that engagement, carrying them along, design thinking, co-creation. But once people begin to fall out of line and you don't do consequence management, the culture then goes all over the place. This way is to address that with consequence management. These are the things to say we will do. Leadership is role modeling. And if we see people deal with it immediately, the more we don't deal with it, the more it becomes our culture.
I'd like to add to that, and I'll give a very quick example. So I'd worked in an organization once, and I was leading the talent acquisition function. And there was a particular line manager who would say, bring me all the bright guys from the Big Fours. One of my direct reporters in this room, and she can corroborate this story. So we will bring all the bright guys from the Big Fours. For 3 months, less than 1 year, they're out. And so we started to have that conversation with the HR director to say, see, we cannot have the sole responsibility for retention. We need to share with line managers, because I can bring you the bright guys. They'll go through the recruitment process. You pick them, you selected them, but you can't manage them. So, my attrition rate will be over the roof. And so this particular line manager was a thorn in my neck. So all the bright people will come. In a few months, they were out. And then this went on because there was just something about how he managed people. But it was getting promoted. From associate director to director. I'm looking at someone who knows what I'm saying. And this is a real life story. So this person was always getting away with it. And then the business saw that, oh, sound guy, let's send you to another market. So they sent him off to another country. If I mention the country, you guys can go and Google it and find out. So they sent him off to another country to be CEO. And it was there. Amazing guy, bright guy. But that part of managing people, zero. And he always got away with it. That's why he was going through the ranks. But right there in the other country he went to, all of these things could not be contained. They could not be accommodated. And so he did the first one, did the second one, and they had to let him go. So back to what YF said, consequence management. Now, this took too long, if you ask me. But unfortunately for him, he found out in another country and he was told to go. So if we accommodate it, it will fester, it will linger. But when we nip it in the bud, then people get the message. Here, we're not toxic. Here, we don't abuse people. We humanize our workplace. We want people to come to work every day, looking forward to Monday, Tuesday. I said earlier that my organization, we run an hybrid system. I go to work every day because the ambience is, and I want my colleagues to come to work and even meet someone. So on the days other people don't come, I want to make sure there's somebody there for them to meet. If I didn't like my job, I'll be working fully remote because I don't want to see other people. So really, it's really about what we allow. Thank you.
Thank you, Jam. Slowly rounding up after sitting down for too long. I have another question here. It says, how do you transition from taking up all the roles and now finally empowering the line manager? So as some of you had mentioned before, HR is carrying everything in authority and power, but now someone is learning and saying, how can I now transition from saying, hey, line manager, it's your responsibility?
It's not going to happen overnight. Create a roadmap. Look for champions within the system to help you reinforce what you are trying to sell, and be comfortable with how long it might take, even within yourself, and be ready for that time when you will also be comfortable. When I start awareness, so even when you have now relinquished all that control, be ready for how else you will still add value, how you would not be the main name in the room and all of that, but it takes time. To add to the two thoughts they had raised on the last question, I also don't want us to leave this room now thinking it's all about, there's another dimension to it, to culture, where we can go a step further and create an organization where every employee sees the role they play. And I always use the example of late coming. Go to an organization where 7 o'clock, we are all supposed to be on our desk. You will have people who will come, maybe 30% will come 6:30, 6:45, and they'll be fine. There'll be 5 to 10% that will come in 7:30. Now, on one end, deal with those who are coming 7:15, 7:30, or else over time, 7:30 will become 8:30. And then they will drag everyone that was coming 6:30 to the other side. Now, if you leave it only to line managers, you're going to have a situation where we're asking one person to influence the opinion and behavioral pattern of, say, 30 people. Power we have when we are telling them to say, the moment I see that I'm not a line work in my department, but I just noticed you are now a 7:15 or 7:30 candidate. I should not go report you to the line manager. I should engage you right there and then and say, okay, what's going on? We come at 7 o'clock. Is there, not just from an accusatory standpoint, is there any reason why you need pick up? Do you have challenge coming? I haven't done all of that. Then get it to a point where I work here. Don't use your behavior or not fulfill my career by ultimately bringing down the organization where I work. The one that will that we should all strive towards. Okay.
Awesome. And I will take this as the last question, if you would allow me. With all that has, how do you suggest HR practitioners help baby boomer executives in management to align with what YF has said, which are how global standards as we're dealing with brain drain? Is that clear? Would you like me to say it again? Okay, so how do we suggest HR practitioners help our baby boomer executive in management to align with global?
Yeah, those suggestions from Benga and Jumoke. But one thing for me is this. Again, we need to, in the now of work, in trying to reimagine HR, move away from emotional HR. Let's move on to data-driven HR. So what are the implications of shouting at employees, maybe in one department or the CEO? What have we seen in terms of attrition? Are we just looking at attrition in terms of 10% of people have left the organization, or are we drilling down to particular individuals, number one? And should we wait until we get to exit interviews, until we get back? I think no, it's a bit too late. Let's try the interview approach. Before an individual puts pen to paper to resign, no, that was the older generation. And then the millennials were doing SMSs and emails. The current generation, they just ghost. Before you ghost, right? A couple of months ago, am I right? Then they start looking, and when you see their laptop, every time you are coming to their space, they are moving that laptop so that you don't see. They are applying for jobs. We've done it before, right? They're applying for jobs. So it's going to take a period of time. They will interview company 1, company 3 over a period of time, and then they resign. We'll say, oh, this year, attrition, that attrition started the moment they got disengaged about 6 to 8 months ago. If you had tried to stay interview at that time with a focus group, 20% of people are still engaged, you probably will understand the reasons why they were at that time disengaged and start doing something within the organization. But if you wait until exit interview, they're going to come back to you for their reference letter. What are they going to tell you during exit interview? What you want to hear. That's the reality. So let's do things differently. Data, number one, and let's not wait until they are leaving the last day at work before they sit in front of HR to do HR. It's one day too late.
I'll just cite 2 practical examples for me, and I'm glad one of them is in the room. So one is about using, and the other is just general engagement. In recent months, I mean, you can almost tell in an average organization, not everybody, depending on the generations, would take to social media and things like that. Just not everybody in the organization is following. Not everybody is sharing, even if the flyers are the best in town, you know. But in recent months, and one of the MDs of our subsidiaries here, Dr. I'm giving you a shout out. Good to have you in the MD that will go to the gym, record the video of her having sessions and share on IG, and even come to the office and in quotes oppress the younger one going to the gym, right? And then we were to do an event recently, and she just, GT, what do we do? How can we? And I, well, let's do an IG session. And then we were on IG, only for us to realize in another WhatsApp group that the group managing director was trying to join the. I guess we were surprised because in our minds, he would just ask us later, how did he go? But he really wanted to join, and he joined. And I mean, Dottie may not remember, I felt prouder when about 4 of us just jammed on the staircase and we were all like, oh, how did it go? It went. But 2 others that were seniors were like, what are they talking about? I can't even remember where or how it happened and all that. Now, those examples are pointers, and they can be small shift. The next I will refer to was, entry-level graduate program, part of the events, we had to, with HR, had to go to the beach and all of that. And I completely disregarded the fact that other people in the organization took notice. So we had gone to the beach, taking pictures, shared and all of that. And then we showed up in the office, and one of the seniors was like, oh, how come you didn't invite? Probably not have gone because you can't. But it is serious, like, well, we are used to doing the work, and it's not difficult for us to have some fun. We see the effort that HR is making at trying to adapt. So please invite or consider a dinner party for us. And that was feedback to HR to say, one, invite, don't push them off, and look for small wins. And as you have those small wins, emphasize it, make a lot of noise. And over time, you will see the adjustments. And it doesn't hurt to do reverse mentoring. Take that phone, go sit with that senior executive and show them how to do it and how to enjoy it. And you'll be shocked the day they will be doing a lot more than what you are doing and things like that. That's what I would advise. Lastly, for me, one of the biggest, we run a mentorship system, program in the office. And one of the biggest for me was we had finished AGM. We're all in the boardroom. One thing led to another. The GMD was in the room with some of the guys in the office. And it was a very informal session, asking questions back and forth. And for another 2 hours, I'm sure everybody, for weeks, everybody that sat in that room was like, they sent in private messages that, man, GMD, we never saw you that way before. You opened up, you shared stories of when and how you started the organization, challenges you've had. And for some of them, it was like, you walk around the place and see you don't have challenges. And found him in that atmosphere where he just opened up. Now, you may not always the process, and once you have one success or one event where it works, pick it up, amplify it, and over time you get others interested.
Thank you very much, GT. Thank you, Jam. Thank you, Juan. I hope we all feel I do. At this point, I would like to release you back into the audience. Back to Ruth for, okay, they should stay here. Okay. I'd like to hand over to Ruth for the closing remarks.
Thank you, everyone. It was quite an insightful session. I hope after this, we can break the bias between the generations and stop the Cold War. So I hope all of us got to see HR from a different perspective, at least I did. And I hope we go back to our various organizations and we can begin to implement new directions and have new methods of people management. And also we can also stop the bias against HR professionals. We don't wear the devil hats like people think we do. And I'd like to thank each and every one of the speakers. I personally learned a lot, and thank you for honoring our invite to this session. It's not Reimagine HRO is not something that stops just because we end today's session. We will continue to imagine it and reimagine it as long as we are alive. The only point we stop learning is when we are dead. And as long as we are alive, the dynamics keep changing. We don't know what's next. We don't know what's coming. And as we grow older, we're going to meet another generation. Hopefully, there will not be any bias this time. But basically, whatever we learn here, whatever we hear here, whatever we understood from this session goes a long way to begin something, whatever you hear, whatever you learn, it does something to your mind, it does something to your brains, and it goes a long way on how you relate and how you interact with the individuals in your organization or basically around you. People management, from what I've come to understand, is not just the people that you work with or work under you. It's how you deal with your colleagues. It's how you deal with your neighbors. It's how you deal with your church members. It's how you deal with the stranger on the street. It's how you deal with people in traffic, especially Lagosians. So I hope that, the conversation doesn't stop here. We did this HR round table because we want a place whereby we can all come together and speak about the issues or challenges that we face as HR professionals, as people managers, as basically people living with people. People are not easy to manage. Everybody is different and unique in their own way, but we have to find a way to come together and make it work. That's the essence of humanity. So the conversation has started, but it hasn't stopped. As we proceed, we keep engaging and we keep generating new ways and new ideas and new structures along the line on how we can manage people and create a better working place for everyone. The idea is for you to come to work and feel safe, feel welcomed, feel accommodated, and achieve your business goals at the end of the day. Your employers are happy and you also are happy. Regardless of what happens, our mental health is important, and I don't think that's what should actually be traded for anything in the world. I don't think there's any salary that's worth your mental. And I hope that as thought leaders, as we leave here, we go back and we re-engineer our organizations and we create a safe space for everybody. And the generation already here and the generation coming don't have to have the same experiences that most of us had. Some of us have had terrible experiences as a copper, as an intern, or technically where you are now, but we can make it better. We have the power of change. Your will is yours, and how you use it depends on you. So you had one bad manager doesn't mean you have to be a bad manager. So you can stop it right where it is and create a better system that's with you, around you, or coming to meet you. So we hope that you continue engaging with us on our social media platforms. We will keep the conversation going. It doesn't stop here. We'll have further sessions on Reimagine HR in the following quarters to come. And we would like you to also engage with us then as you have engaged with us now. And we hope that at the end of this year, we would have a positive feedback from everybody that has reimagined HR with us. And the HR organization as we know it would have a better outlook. So I want to thank everyone, especially the audience. You guys are the real MVPs. And we appreciate you for coming despite the rain to come and have this session with us. I want to especially thank the speakers. I want to thank the moderator who did not allow me to introduce her. I want to thank you for taking time from your busy schedules and sharing your experiences, sharing your thoughts with us, and breaking it down so everybody participates and flows along. I will thank you very much. Thank you for being part of our family. We're a family at SIO, and we appreciate you a lot. So please, ladies and gentlemen, let's give it one round of applause for our speakers as they go back to their seats. Sir? Okay, do not sit. Okay. Okay, you can sit. So to give the closing remark, I will be inviting once again Mr. Smith to come and give us his thoughts.
No, not closing remarks. I just felt I had to say something. And please, a round of applause for the chairman of SIO, Robert Odiachi. He's here. We are part of the ghost. Can you say ghost generation? Did you call it ghost, or what do you call it? Silent generation. I'm not silent too. Yes. For us to realign, but I just had to say one thing, and I felt that saying that a session of this nature should not be amongst HR professionals alone. It has to be actually with business owners and employers of labor, because they need to have listened. I've learned a lot today. And I believe that when more business owners who are of a different generation get to hear and learn, then I think there'll be a bit more of a blend and things will probably work better. Then the kind of disruption that we have may be a bit lessened. I am a victim of it, so I understand. And I believe that you have a new recruit today, but you won't admit me to your generation. That's the unfortunate thing. Because of my tummy, you won't admit to my generation, but mentally, I'm part of it because I have the generation at home and I know that I cannot engage with them. So I know the kind of attrition I also have at home. So it's something that I also align with. And I know that it's either you actually decide you want to work with it or you actually sink. So I want to, has everybody been thanked? We thanked everybody. So it's not my business to say thank you, but I have to say thank you. I thoroughly enjoyed myself today. It was good. And I hope we can have another session and not just keep it remote. And it's like NHR consultants here can have another session for employers, business owners, and we should keep the conversation going. Thank you once again, and God bless you.
So thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Let me release everybody. I can see everybody wants to go. Don't worry, I'm going to release you. Sir? Okay, so we have lunch for you outside. So thank you very much. We'll officially close the session. I release you to go and have lunch. Thank you very much for coming once again. So lunch is served outside. Once you come out, exit from the door and see your left. The lunch is served there. So take time to have lunch and network and everything. Thank you.
Sorry, please, lunch is served. Please, you can just go out and please just go out and you can bring your lunch back inside. Thank you very much.